While we're talking about geopolitical tensions here, though, President Trump has confirmed he withheld military aid to Ukraine while speaking with reporters at the UN earlier. Take a listen to what he had to say.
As far as withholding funds, those funds were paid. They were fully paid. But my complaint has always been, and I'd withhold again, and I'll continue to withhold until such time as Europe and other nations contribute to Ukraine, because they're not doing it. It's the United States. We're putting up the bulk of the money. And I'm asking, why is that?
See, but what's interesting about President Trump's move to withhold that aid is that the Washington Post is reporting that the president first requested his acting chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, to put a hold on nearly $400 million worth of military aid and security aid to the country about a week before a call with Ukraine's president. Now, some are speculating the hold in military aid was to pressure an investigation on former Vice President Joe Biden and his son. But President Trump said earlier this week that there was no quid pro quo to that decision. But guys, some top Democrats, including 2020 candidate Elizabeth Warren, of course, calling for Trump's impeachment. There are reports from HuffPost that Joe Biden will also be joining those calls in a speech later today if he does not go ahead and go along with Congress's requests for information on this front. So interesting, because we really hadn't seen the main party, the main figureheads in the Democratic Party shifting over to talking about impeachment. Of course, Nancy Pelosi has withheld a lot of that as we've seen this go along. But this could mark a turning point here and potentially why we're seeing the markets dip further as we move along in the day. But what do you guys make of that shift?
I think it is quite notable that Nancy Pelosi is starting to feel the pressure from the Democrats. But all of the drama that has been unfolding around this Ukrainian phone call between President Trump and the Ukrainian president is really something else, I have to say. It is quite interesting to see this unfold, given that if President Trump was in fact using that aid as leverage to dig up dirt on, former Vice President Joe Biden and his son, that could be an impeachable offense. A lot of people out there are saying, oh, is Ukraine the new Russia of 2020? And I think that's such a valid point right now, because who knows what could happen ahead of this 2020 election, right? If Ukraine is helping President Trump dig up dirt. I mean, President Trump's only argument is, well, take a look at the transcript. Our conversation was perfect. To describe a conversation as perfect is also just so strange.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think from a Democrats' perspective, it's been months since the Mueller report officially came out. And, they hadn't acted on it until now. In fact, they were quibbling about terminology within the party. And so if they were just waiting for an additional catalyst or, the last straw, essentially, then, this is right in front of them. From a market perspective, political uncertainty and political volatility does result in some market volatility. Yep. But I think to some extent, investors, looking at Trump headlines, they've been looking at them since the end of 2016, even during the campaign season last time. I think a lot of investors are basically just fed up with these news stories. Yep. So even if some impeachment moves forward, there's about a little over a year left in his presidency. So it's unclear what the market reaction would actually be.
But James, isn't that so crazy that we are kind of downplaying all of these crazy headlines? Because if you think about it, if it was anyone else in office, do you think we would be so desensitized? Yeah,
if you're talking about impeachment, I think you would be seeing potentially a stronger move than what we're seeing right now in the overall market. But of course, nothing official coming out yet. And Nancy Pelosi just saying that she will be meeting with her advisors and constituents later on in the day. And Joe Biden hasn't even spoken yet. That speech expected at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll keep you up to date on all of that. Hey investors, Zack Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.